Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Importer Insight. I'm your host, Amanda Horney, and today with me, I have a very special guest. I'm joined by Manuel Michel, Executive Director of the Colombian Avocado Board. With over a decade of experience in agricultural trade policy, market development, and international advocacy, Manuel brings a unique perspective on the evolving role of Colombian avocados in the global supply chain. Before leading the charge at the Colombian Avocado Board, he served as executive director of the National Mango Board, where he helped drive industry growth and expand consumer demand across the U.S. From Washington, D.C. to Bogota, Manuel has been at the forefront of building strategic partnerships that connect growers with global opportunities. Let's get ready to dive into a conversation about market access, consumer trends, and the bright green gold future of Colombian avocados in the U.S. produce aisles. Welcome, Manuel.
Thank you, Amanda. Really appreciate that introduction. Very generous of you. And thank you for your interest in Colombian avocados. As we have been discussing previously, very excited to be part of Colombia Avocado. Been with the board now for 2 years, and it's been a whirlwind of a journey the last 2 years just because of all the growth and the potential
Yes.
that exists for the industry. So very happy, very excited to be part of your podcast.
Thank you so much. We appreciate having you here. And you're right, Colombian avocados have really just exploded over the last 2 years, especially since you took over. I know this year they really penetrated the market with everything in the mix: California, Mexico, Peru. You heard all about Colombian. I even was able to import my own Colombian avocados and do well with them. It was great. I hope to do more next year. Can you tell us about what, personally drove you to this role, or how you came across this role?
2 years ago, the opportunity came up to work with Colombia Avocado Board. I was making a transition in my career. I'm wanting to move closer to be with family. And so the opportunity came up at the moment that I was making that transition. So it fit well. And when they first mentioned Colombia Avocado Board to me, I thought it was very interesting because with Colombia, they're famous for many things, flowers, coffee, but not avocados. And as the more I learned about the industry and the potential it had, the more interested I became. So, uh, leading the mango board for almost 9 years, we saw a lot of growth there as well. And so I felt that the experience that I gained over those 9 years with the mango industry, that there was a lot of learning that we could transfer over and help the Colombia Avocado Board grow. It takes a village for this to happen.
Uh-huh.
It's not just the board or the members, the directors. It's the entire team that's involved, all the stakeholders, the entire industry. So getting everybody on board and pulling in the same direction is what makes the success. And we've been very fortunate to see a lot of growth over the last 2 years. With Colombian avocados, they were first um, approved to be exported to the U.S. Back in 2017. And in
Uh-huh.
2020, the Colombia Avocado was formed under what is called the Haas Avocado Promotion, Research, and Information Act. So we're
Uh-huh.
all under the umbrella of Haas Avocado Board, and each of the countries or regions that produces avocados, like California, Mexico, Peru, Chile, now Colombia, we all are responsible for doing our own marketing programs. And so that's the reason why Colombia Avocado Board exists. So we're an organization that's industry funded and industry managed. And so the board is the one who decides what happens with the funds that are being collected. And when we first started, we were small. We didn't have a lot of funding. Our budgets are still modest compared to a lot of the other commodity boards, especially the avocado boards. But we've made a lot of progress in the last 2 years. A couple of years ago, we started attending trade shows. So we
Uh-huh.
wanted to focus specifically on letting the importers and retailers know that there was a new option in Hass avocado. And then this current year, now we have larger budgets. So now we can do a little more retail promotions, and eventually we'll get into other areas of marketing. But we're starting to do a lot more than what we've been able to do in prior years just because we have a larger budget.
That's wonderful. That's amazing to hear. What all goes into the retail advertising? What do you do to promote for retailers?
So we're just getting started there, but it's important to build a strong team. You need to have merchandisers who know the industry, the avocado category, and then have those contacts with retailers. So we're in the process of setting that up as we speak. But here within a couple of months, we'll have that program in place. Once you do have your representatives and the individuals that are going to help you reach out to retailers, we've been doing some of that already over the last years, but now
Right.
we're going to go at a larger scale. So having the contacts with retailers, letting them know why Colombia avocado is a great option, and then having funds available. So in order to do promotions, there's many different strategies that you can select from, but for us, our focus is going to be whatever gets the retailer excited. So
Yeah.
there are retailers that like to have point of sale materials, others like to do ads, others are more focused on digital and social media. So we're going to have as many options available for the retailers so that they get to pick and choose what works best for them. And behind all that, we're going to develop a very strong story about Colombia and the different benefits that we have. So sustainability is definitely an area where we shine as an industry. And there are many other areas, but that's right now being developed. And here in the next 3 to 4 months, you'll start to see a lot more on avocados from Colombia.
Can you expand about the sustainability going on in Colombia and how that differentiates them from the other growing regions a little bit?
Yes, so sustainability has been an important part of Colombia. They have a very tropical climate. So just that comes with its own benefits and challenges. But Colombia, as an agriculture industry, has learned to manage that tropical climate, the rain. Because it's tropical, there are a lot of rainforests. And the Colombian government, going back many decades now, I would say 20, 30 years, they've implemented some very strong policies to protect the environment in Colombia. So the ag industry has taken all that, built it into their programs, into their businesses. And so right now it's very easy for the Colombian industry to implement third-party certifications that show how successful they are with their sustainability. When we talk about sustainability, of course, it covers not just the environmental aspect, but also social responsibility. Many of the Colombian avocado growers have been exporting to Europe for longer period than they have to the US. So in the European market, there are more certifications that are required around global gap, around social responsibility like SMETA, um,
Mhm.
other environmental certifications like Rainforest Alliance. There are several examples, but many of the growers and exporters already have those certifications in place. And so now it's an opportunity to highlight them here in the US market.
How many members do you have as part of your organization?
So right now we have a fiscal year that runs from July 1st to June 30th. And so we just started our fiscal year for 2025-26. We're going through membership drive, but at this moment we have 17 importers that are association members, and we have 8 exporters that are association members. And on top of that, we have Corpojas, which is the grower association down in Colombia. So in total, you're looking at about 26 members at this point in time. We're talking to several other companies, so we expect that number to grow here during this fiscal year.
And good luck with that. I'm sure it will grow. Dry matter is such an important topic with imports. Mexico has a 23% minimum for theirs. What is Colombia's minimum?
So that's a great question and very important one, Amanda. For Colombia, we've set it at 23% as a recommendation. As a Colombia
Mhm.
Avocado Board, we cannot enforce any sort of regulation, but we developed the best handling practices manual last year, and in that manual, we say 23 should be the minimum. Now, as we started to implement that, 23 was the average, and we know
Mhm.
that we've learned that no, that it can't be the average. It has to be the bare minimum.
Bare
And so
minimum,
moving
yes.
forward, we're working with Corporal Haas. Corporal Haas being an association and they have more control over their membership, they're going to start to enforce that from their association perspective and making sure that the minimum is 23% dry matter out of Colombia.
Nice. That'll make a huge difference. Just so you know, I saw in my local Walmart, and I live in the middle of Missouri, there were Colombian avocados, and I swear they were 48s. They had to be a bigger size. They weren't smaller, which Colombia is normally known for their smaller sizes, but they must have been like a 48 or maybe a 60. And I was really surprised to see them. They were definitely good. The quality has improved vastly over the last couple of years. And it's really exciting to see the entire process as you guys grow and just get better and bring better quality into the US. I'm excited to see what happens in the next 5 years and how you kind of take over the market. Could you explain the seasonality of the Colombian avocado, because it is year round, but there is a little bit of a gap. I think we're coming to the end of the Traviesa, if I said that correctly,
That's correct.
season. And could you explain that their seasonality a little bit for those that don't know about it?
Yeah. So in Colombia, you have two main avocado seasons. The first one is the main season that runs from approximately September, usually peaks December, January, February, and then it ends right around March, April timeframe. And then the second season is the one you mentioned, the Traviesa season. That one can run from March all the way to September. So each season is about 5 to 6, 7 months long. The main season, of course, has the most volume. And when Colombia first started exporting to the US, most of the volume came during the Traviesa season. So the volume we saw up until last year was around the time frame of May, June, July. However, since last year, we've started to see more consistent volume coming in from Colombia. When you go through that gap period that you mentioned, we've seen volumes drop to about 1 to 2 million pounds per week. And then right now they're peaking at about 6 million pounds per week. So right now, as we're in early July of 2025, the volumes have been around 5 to 6 million pounds per week. We're going to start to see that coming down as we get into August. I would say 4 to 5 million pounds, and then all the way down to maybe 2 to 3 million pounds when we transition from Traviesa over to the main season in September, October timeframe.
Good to know. Good to know. So your market share definitely grew this season. Do you have any percentages? As a Mexican importer, it definitely cut into my market share.
Glad to
And
hear that in a positive way, of course.
it is very positive. But do you know the percentage as to what it got up to and where we're at now?
Yes. Yeah, so we've grown a lot since last year. Last year, we saw a total of about 80 million pounds come to the US market. This year, it's going to be close to double that, 165, 170 million pounds is what's projected. And so we started the season very strong in January, February. We were able to supply 5 to 6 million pounds per week. The prior year was 1 or 2 million pounds. And so that's been consistent throughout the year. Uh, and we plan to continue that pace. We did a strategic plan last year. And in that strategic plan, the board, based on their knowledge of what's happening in the industry, they see Colombia growing up to 330, 300 million pounds by the year 2029. So we're going to continue to add, say, 50 to 100 million pounds per year to the volume that's exported to the US. Many reasons from that growth. We still have a lot of young orchards that are coming into full production. We also have a lot more orchards and packing sheds that are being certified each year. Then also there's more percentage of the total volume coming to the US. So last year, only about 22, 23% of the volume that Colombia exported came to the US. This year, it's in the range of 40 to 45%. There have been weeks where it's as high as 50%, even 60% of the total volume. So a lot more of that um, share is coming to the US, and we'll continue to see more volume. Um, you mentioned, we've been in the news quite a bit, and that's part of the work that the Colombia Avocado Board does. PR, communications. When you don't have large budgets, you focus on that as much as possible. But we have a great story to tell, a lot of information to share, and so we kept ourselves pretty busy generating that information for the industry. And now we're ready to take the next step, which is investing more funding into doing retail promotions.
Nice, nice. And hitting at the consumer level. So
Yes.
amazing, amazing. Are there any other markets that you go to? You mentioned Europe, the US, obviously. Where else do Colombian avocados import into?
So the main market for Colombia at this moment in time is still Europe. They receive anywhere from 50 to 60% of the volume that they export. They've been sending some to Canada, small percentages, not very much. They're also looking at other markets within Latin America, so Chile potentially, Argentina, Brazil. But the main market moving forward will be the US. Most of the volume will be shipped to the US.
I know a lot of it goes to the East Coast. Do you also ship into the West Coast?
There was some in prior years. It's been minimal, anywhere from like 2 to 5%. We have fast route shipping routes into East Coast. So into Florida, we can be there in as little as 3 days. Into Miami or Port Everglades, we can get up to Philadelphia in as little as 5 days. So we have a great advantage there in getting to
Yes.
those markets. So we've been focused there for the most part.
Well, you're definitely hitting the Midwest. I can tell you that for sure.
Yes, we have seen interest by retailers in the Midwest. That was surprising to us earlier this year that we started to see interest all the way from the upper Midwest all the way down into your part of the world where you're in Missouri into Texas. So moving forward, we'll continue to see Colombian avocados. As we have more volume, it'll continue to spread across the country. We're already talking to some retailers with interest all the way into the Rocky Mountain states, into California. So if we have the volume, we definitely are interested in talking to retailers and supplying them year round or whenever it makes sense for them.
Right. I think this price stability really makes a huge difference and just will open up so many more retailers for you in the future. So good for you guys. Colombia is known for its diverse microclimates. Can you talk about a little bit more about that and how it helps you guys to be able to ship year round?
Yes. So in Colombia, the reason we're able to ship throughout the year is because of the different elevations. Colombia is close to the equator, so the climate doesn't change. It's stable throughout the year. However, as the higher you go, you run into microclimates. And so with Hass avocado, we have production as low as about 1,500 meters, and then as high as that's changing over time. They're trying new areas, but right now
Hmm.
the range is about 1,500 meters up to about 2,700 meters. And so at each elevation, the crop comes into production at different stages throughout the year. The Hass avocado tree, they're similar where they have 1 to 4 flowerings. Doesn't matter if it's in Colombia, California, or anywhere else in the world, but they'll flower 1 to 4 times. In Colombia, we normally see 2 flowerings. Some areas are starting to see 3 flowerings during the year. But then, based on where they're at in elevation, they'll come into production and then harvest at a different point. And so that's how we're able to have volume throughout the year because we have orchards. At this point, there are probably about 17 states in Colombia that have Hass avocado orchards. 8 of them can export to the US. And so each one of those states is located at different elevations, and we can generate volumes throughout the year.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. And I think it's important to just for the consumer to kind of understand, how they're able to have avocados year round, especially from places like Colombia and Mexico and other regions. So thank you so much. Um, Something that I learned about the Colombian Avocado Board and everything that's developed over the last few years is that you've created 80,000 jobs, mostly for women and agro millennials. Can you tell us, what does that mean to you and the industry?
Yeah, so that term agro-millennial is is a term that we learned down in Colombia. There are a lot of young people involved in agriculture. So Colombia went through a tough situation back in the 80s and 90s, and they've been transitioning over and becoming more of a ag production region. They started off with flowers. They've been in coffee for many years, bananas also recently, but then avocados came along, say about 15 years ago. And it's been a great opportunity because a lot of the infrastructure for agriculture already existed. A lot of the labor force was already there working in coffee and plantains, different crops that were already grown. And so, with the opportunity of Hass Avocado, we're able to provide work to many individuals, younger folks. A lot of women are also involved in the industry. So it's been a blessing for Colombia to have a Hass avocado as a crop that can be produced there. And if we do it right, and that's where we're in the process of working with the industry to continue to make improvements. But if we can have premium avocados throughout the year, then that benefits the industry, the growers, the employees, and then at this end, you have the consumers that will also be happy with more avocados with consistent quality. So it benefits everybody, and that's what gets me excited about working with Colombia is having the opportunity to support the industry, seeing that impact that you're having at the local level.
Hmm.
We do trips down to Colombia to visit the different production areas, and you can tell right away the impact that the industry is having in a short period of time, like over a 5-year period. You see a
Yes,
lot more people that they're improving their lives. They're able to continue
very
to
true.
educate their children, just have a better standard of living. And it's very beautiful areas. Whenever you travel into Colombia, it seems like every town has a story of how the avocado industry has impacted their community.
I've never been, but I'm definitely willing to go whenever you guys would like to invite me.
Yeah.
But I know you guys have added so much. I was able to visit Peru a few years ago and saw what avocados can do for a community and how it can just help their overall standard of living, like you mentioned. And it's just an amazing, beautiful thing and such a wonderful feeling to be a part of in a very small way. Can you give me an example of how the industry has helped your local communities in Colombia?
Yes. So I think every company down in Colombia, every community has a unique story, but one that definitely comes to mind is one that involves it's called the yellow-eared parrot. And so that parrot was supposed to be extinct, and they discovered that there were still some living back in about 1999, 2000 in an area called Jardín. And so it's
Hmm.
an area that now produces avocados, but one of the main companies there in Jardín is Jardín Exotics, and they've
Hmm.
incorporated the yellow-eared parrot into their logo. So they're very proud that they support not just the community, but in this case also an animal that was going extinct. And so they take that very seriously, where they contribute to making sure that that parrot continues to prosper and that it doesn't go extinct.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. Colombia is known for creating different ways of using their avocados. I've seen something about what was it? Avocado waffles. What can you tell me about that? What has been your favorite creation so far?
There are so many ways that they use avocados down in Colombia. There's a restaurant in Medellin, if you ever visit, it's called Avocaderia. They have two locations, so the entire restaurant, the entire menu is dedicated to avocados. And so you can taste avocados anywhere, anyhow you can imagine. They include them in different drinks, so they'll have like avocado lemonade. Probably the most unique way that I've seen recently in the use of avocados, it would be in beverages, so you can enjoy them both as a hot or a cold drink. They also use avocados down in Colombia in soups, so that was something new to me. Where usually when I eat avocados in Mexican cuisine, you have it as guacamole, you have it as salsas.
Yeah.
Definitely down in Colombia, they incorporate them into many other meals. So it's unique to see, and it would be great to bring some of those ideas over to the US. With time, we'll expand into food service and bring some of those ideas. But right now, we're mostly focused on retail promotions this year. Eventually, we will expand more into food service, and we'll start to bring some of those ideas and share them with American consumers.
Amazing. Have you tried the avocado waffle?
I have not. No,
I'm gonna
have
have
to
to look
try it.
that up. That sounds really interesting, in all honesty. I love making waffles with my daughter, so that's something I'm gonna have to look into. Let's talk about the tariffs. There is a 10% tariff. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a current 10% tariff on Colombian avocados and Colombian products in general. How has that affected you and your growers this season?
Well, it's been difficult. It was a surprise at the beginning of the year,
Hmm.
and the industry has been working around it. 10%. Any country that has a tariff has a disadvantage versus those that don't have tariffs. So it's been a challenge, but the industry has learned to work around that. I think the big question is if that goes higher, then it'll run into a tough situation for Colombia specifically. Since the US market hasn't had tariffs for many years, it's difficult to calculate or to come up with how much of an impact tariffs will have on demand. But eventually, it will start to affect demand. And we don't know what that is yet, but definitely it's a concern, I think, for everyone who is dealing with that situation. The industry is doing their best to work with everyone involved to deal with the situation. But right now, they've learned to work with that 10% tariff. If it goes any higher, then it's hard to say what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely could be an issue, especially for the smaller players, I would think, in the long run. Uh, there, I don't think there's a threat of a 30% towards Colombia, right? That's just
There
Mexico
hasn't been any
right now.
mention of that.
Okay. We'll keep it at 10%. 10%'s okay. Please don't go any higher. So, I guess my final question to you about Colombian avocados would be if you could describe the industry in 3 words, what would that be?
So I would say growth, sustainability, and trusted. The last one, trust, that one's very important. It's
Mhm.
something that all of us are always working on. It's been a heck of a learning curve with Colombia avocados, but each year we make progress. And to me, that's the most important one is establishing that trust with the industry. And we're continuing to work on that every season.
Yeah. I definitely think you guys have established yourselves as a trustworthy partner in the US, and I'm sure that trust will just continue to grow as the years progress. I really appreciate you coming on the show today and learning a little bit more about Colombian avocados, things that even I didn't know as an importer. Um, and I'm looking forward to a really bright future for you guys and really excited to see what else comes. And please keep the stickers coming because I love all the little avocado stickers that you hand out. My
No,
daughter absolutely loves them. I think that's my favorite thing to bring home anytime I go to a show is the stickers from your
the
booth.
avocado
So
stickers. We'll keep them available. And thank you for the invitation, Amanda. I really appreciate you having this conversation. And we look forward to continuing to work with the industry and have these type of opportunities to share information.
yes, thank you so much. And tune in to Importer Insight, and our next episode will be coming very soon. If you'd like to get in touch with Manuel, I will leave his contact info below. And yeah, keep your eye out for Colombian avocados. They're going nationwide very soon. More to come. So stay tuned and take care. Bye bye.